Anyway, how do you think the Warriors handled the Draymond Green, Jordan Poole situation?
Not well. Here's the issue. And guys, this is not the first time that the Warriors have had issues with Draymond Green teetering on the wrong side of the line, right? He's done that plenty. People like to make the case that he cost the Warriors a championship in 2016 with what he did with LeBron. And I think that's a fair case to make. You look at what's gone on over the years, his treatment of the referees, the officials not really pushing back on him as much as I think they should. And I think that's a common theme. And I don't just blame the Warriors. I think the league, the referees, Draymond's behavior teeters on, inappropriate to, at times, and in this case was violent, but at times just to a point of just overly aggressive. And I think in this particular case, especially when you get a video that goes public like this, I think the Warriors missed a major, major opportunity because Draymond this wasn't really a punishment for Draymond. Yes, there's a financial penalty. There's a fine, right? Draymond got to take a couple of days of training camp off and hang at home. That's all he got. And it was all in the name of the fact that no one wants to go do the ring ceremony without him. And although it's a very nice sentiment for the Warriors and their fans to be able to have your guy and your emotional leader and your emotional hub and all that there, he's got to earn it as an individual, and he didn't earn it as an individual. And I just think it's an awful message to send to Draymond, to the rest of the team. I know the guys wanted him there. I get that Steph Curry played a role in mediating all this, and Steph Curry's a wonderful leader. And I appreciate the fact and respect and admire the fact that he has Draymond's back through all this. They've been together for a very long time, won 4 championships together. All of that. The bottom line is this, and I know fights happen all the time in practice. That was beyond just a practice fight, that punch he laid on Jordan Poole. And when you're in a situation now, you're talking contract with Jordan Poole. I mean, people say, well, if Poole was okay with it, then what's the problem? Why does this burden have to be on Jordan Poole? And when Steph Curry is advocating hard for a lighter punishment for Green because they want him their ring night and they want to start the season with him, does Jordan Poole even have a choice? Shouldn't this have to be decided for him because he was victimized in this way? There's a lot wrong with this, and I do get the feeling, and this bothers me, that the Warriors are much more concerned, and not they shouldn't be concerned with who leaked it, because that's a problem in and of itself within their organization. But they're more concerned with who leaked it than what Draymond did. And I think that itself begs a larger issue that could come back to roost later in the season, because I think Draymond learned, no matter what his words say, I think he learned absolutely nothing here about controlling his temper in the future.
Brian Geltzeiler joining us on 95.7 The Game, Sirius XM NBA Radio.
Now, Brian, it sounds like what you're essentially saying is they did it because they're fearful of the ramifications of a suspension more than trying to make it work. I guess the question I would have for you is, can you make the case that the Warriors' best chance at making this season work is getting everything out and handled and beyond them now before they actually tip off against the Lakers on Tuesday night, and then just hope that cooler heads can prevail and that they can, Jordan Poole's going to be all right and that Draymond can earn that trust back?
Right. Well, I mean, the whole, you want him to earn the trust back, he's got to be willing to make changes. And I don't know how he's willing to make changes when he skirts this without really a punishment. It wasn't a punishment. To me, missing ring night is a punishment. Not being there with your teammates to get your ring and having to have yours brought to you in the locker room the next day at practice or whatever, to me, that's a penalty. And yeah, it may have bothered some of the other players to not have him there, and I appreciate the fact they're a very together team. But what you don't want is something like this to happen again with Draymond Green at the wrong time for this team. You are the defending champions. You have the ability and the potential to win this thing again. You don't want him to cost you, and he does a lot of great things for this team. I get that, and I think that the whole spiritual leader thing, I buy it. I do. I buy into him being where this team's emotion comes from, being that source of emotion. But it's teetered too many times on the wrong side. And I think he deserved a bigger punishment than this. And the whole narrative that's been put forward, and Brian Windhorst of ESPN had this, Woj talked about this last night on ESPN, is the fact that this is about ring night. This is about not wanting to do a ring ceremony Tuesday night without Draymond Green present on the floor. Well, and I don't think that reason serves the Warriors well, guys. You know what I mean?
No, I get where you're coming from, Brian. I really do, but I also think that the flip side to that is, does it make it weirder and or more caustic, let's say, if Draymond isn't there? Because then you're how does Draymond feel about that? And I know you may say it doesn't matter how Draymond feels because Draymond made the mistake in hitting Jordan Poole, but I guess what I'm getting at is the Warriors are pushing all their chips into the middle of the table right now, that this is just going to go away, and they would rather have it play out that way than have Draymond be ticked off that he missed ring night, or have other players thinking, you know what, this was messed up that he didn't get to go to ring night, even what he did was so bad. I guess they're choosing the lesser of two evils in a way, and they're choosing the fact that a Draymond Green that may not hold a grudge against them is the better way to go.
So they're going to live in fear of him? Because that's what they're doing.
Sure. But you know what?
That's the consistent thing they've done, and they've won 4 champiomships. So so you're not, the point that you make is not an invalid point. I just don't agree with it.
Yeah.
And I say that, you're not making, listen, they've won 4 titles in 8 years. Okay? So however they've been doing it certainly has yielded results on the floor, and they've built a great culture. Here's part of my problem with it. All right, you're marrying 2 eras of Warriors basketball this year, maybe more than ever, certainly more than you did last year. Yep. Right? Steph, Clay, Draymond, not as young as they used to be. All right, Andre Iguodala has already given you an indication, 1 last year, and that's it, and I'm done. Wiggins kind of ties from the old era to the new era with where his age is. And then you're looking at Wiseman, you're looking at Poole, you're looking at Kuminga, you're looking at Moody. You want them to develop with the thought of that there's a special kind of Warriors culture. This is bad culture stuff. And you can make the case to me that Draymond's had other incidents like this, and it's in the end never really affected the Warriors. But again, they could have had 5 titles in 8 years, if not for what he did in 2016. So there's Draymond teetering out of control is not a new story. And I think a message could be sent, because what happens if this becomes a little bit of an epidemic? And I don't know that Wiseman or Kuminga or Moody or even Jordan Poole are hotheads to the extent that you would have to worry about that. But I do think that there's something to be said for, hey, we need to be better to each other as a group, as a team. And Draymond's part of that. To not bring him to ring night because you're afraid how he's going to react. Here's what I'll push back on. Where's he going? Because you know what? Woj talked about it last night. Get ready to pay him $27.5 million next year when he opts in, because no one's giving him that in the open market, not at 34 years old. So you have him this year and you have him next year. And they've had problems with Draymond in the past. Draymond got a worse penalty for what he did with Kevin Durant that night in L.A. in 2018, all right, more than he got here for violently punching Jordan Poole in a practice that was called on camera. Think about that.
Yeah.
Get suspended for that. Okay? So why would you do that with Durant and not do that here with Jordan Poole? And you can't even equate the 2 actions. So it's not like punishing Draymond's totally foreign to them, but I just don't think you can live in fear of him. I think in the end, is he going to be mad for a week, 2 weeks? He'll move on. He'll move on because he's going to want to win, but he'll also know if I do something egregious like this again, I'm going to have a problem with the guys that I work for and the guys that pay me. That message wasn't sent here.
Brian Geltzeiler joining us on 95.7 The Game. You can hear him on Sirius XM NBA Radio. I know you can't predict the future, but what do you see as, okay, it could work out and they win a title, whatever. What could be the possible cost of this, and how might it look?
All right, so do I think Draymond's going to punch another teammate? No. Do I think Draymond is at one point going to get in a referee's face too much, get himself teed up, and get himself tossed out of a game at a big point in time? It's always possible. And the fact that you didn't nip this in the bud makes it just as possible as it's always been. You could have made it less possible by sending a message to Draymond. You need to control yourself better, or we're going to have to lay punishment on you. You could have sent that message. Okay, you could have a situation where Draymond loses his cool with an opponent on the floor and ends up getting himself tossed and or suspended, and that lies out of the Warriors' hands. Like, these are all things that are on the table with Draymond. Now, listen, in all fairness, if you go ahead and you suspend him for ring night, suspend him for 3 games, 5 games, you suspend him for that amount of time, it doesn't guarantee it won't happen again either. But you've taken action to try to discourage it from happening again. And I think that's where the Warriors listen, they don't have a ton of control here in the first place. Let's call it for what it is. But any modicum of control that they could have had, they have completely and entirely relinquished here. And I think that's where this decision may not necessarily serve them well, and certainly doesn't send what I think is the right message to the young guys that you're looking to have to be pillars of the Warriors' future here, and guys like Poole and Wiseman and Kuminga and Moody.